weird. It doesn't ever do that. Wait, what happened? I don't think it worked. Did it work?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, then we will have to edit this later. Hey, everybody, it's Tim and Steve from Phantom. It acted a little weird tonight, everybody.
We're off to a good start.
We are live from Phantom History House. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be back here after a week off.
Absolutely. So thank you for being here, everybody. Welcome to Phantom History House Calls. So tonight is truly an international experience.
It is. We have our first international guest on tonight, calling in from the UK. So definitely the most long distance house call that we've had
so far. Yeah, this is really exciting. He stayed up late for us, everybody, because it's like midnight in the UK right now when we're recording this. And Leon McAnally, I should have practiced.
I believe he pronounces it McAnally, but we will find out.
Yeah, we'll have him do it. He's going to be on to talk about haunted locations in the UK.
Haunted and historic locations in the UK, and his book that's coming out, Dark Attractions in the A Guide to Dark Attractions in the UK, which comes out later this month. So definitely a guy who knows his haunted history stuff. And I'm so jealous because there's so much history that's in the UK compared to what we have here.
Absolutely. So if you're watching, please comment, ask questions at any time. Let us know where you're watching from. Susan, I see that you're here. Thank you so much for watching tonight. So we have a lot of stuff going on. We are really got a lot of things. The first one is Friday night.
Friday night, yes. So it's going to be our very first ever scavenger hunt. So I'm not going to show you all the clues, but we are having our very first scavenger hunt here. There's only a few tickets left. The reception has been really good. And as you know, if you live here in Florida, it's about 250 degrees outside right now. So we decided it'd be fun to create an event that's inside in the air conditioning. So we are doing an indoor scavenger hunt throughout the B&B, and then we're going to wrap up the night with some indoor ghost stories around our fire that does not put out heat in the library.
And I'm baking some baked goods, and there's going to be wine and soft drinks and all that stuff, coffee, tea if you want it. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for watching. So everyone, this is going to be really cool. One of the things we've loved to do is fill the Phantom History House with all kinds of really interesting and unique objects all throughout the house. And so we have selected just a select number of them for you to use the clues and find. So there's only a few tickets left, so check it out.
And it's very easy. We're going to put people into groups. You're going to go and you're going to find the thing, take a picture of it, show me the picture that you took, and I'll tell you if it's the right thing. Check it off your list, and you'll go run into your next item. And you don't even have to go in the order that they are on your page.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for watching. We're going to be talking about haunted and historic locations in the UK with Leon, who stayed up really late. He's calling from across the pond. We'll be back with him in just a second. Saturday night.
It is, we are past July 4th. Of Independence Day is over, which means we are into spooky season, which means we are back with our ghost tour. So this Saturday, the Oldsmar Ghost Tour Walk is back. And myself and Ginger are going to be leading the tour, and we do have tickets available for that too.
Yeah, so if you're in the area, please come do the ghost tour. It's going to be very exciting.
Yes.
That's back.
Wear comfortable shoes, bring your bug spray. We will walk about a mile. It lasts about an hour and 15 minutes.
Right. We're just about to bring Leon in to talk about haunted locations in the UK, but Sunday, we're doing weddings now at Phantom History House. We're very excited about this. We have our first one coming up very soon. And we are going to be at the Tampa Bay Wedding Expo.
Yes, the Tampa Bay Times Wedding Expo. It's going to be at the Florida State Fairgrounds this
Sunday, 12 to 4.
Yes, and we are going to have our booth there, and we're going to be letting brides and grooms know that we are a great place to have your small wedding.
So if you know anybody that's going to be there, or come see us at the fairgrounds, or let people know that if they're thinking about wedding stuff, to come see us there that day. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully we'll meet a lot of cool brides, hopefully some sort of unconventional couples that might want to be here.
We're in an unconventional space, and we do have our first actual wedding coming up very soon. They're here this weekend doing some final touches for their wedding coming up. And hey, Kristen. Hey, Chris. Good to see you guys watching. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for being here.
And remember, as we have our conversation with Leon, please drop your questions for him in the chat. But I think we should go ahead and
Is it time to bring him in from across the pond?
I think so.
Have I said that too many times?
You have said that way too many times.
Okay, well, let's bring him in. Hey, Leon.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tim and Steve. It's actually great.
We're thrilled to have you. And just so everybody kind of knows how we got connected, we did a Phantom History House Calls a month or so ago now, talking to our mutual friend, Christy, from Tennessee, and you were viewing that, and we kind of had a chat offline after that. When you shared that you have a special interest in haunted historic locations and that you were writing this very cool book. So I thought a good place to start would be for you to just do like a brief introduction of who you are and how you kind of fit into our paranormal world.
So my name's Leon McAnally. I'm writing a book, A Guide to Dark Attractions in the UK. So it's dark tourism related, covering over 300 different attractions. No,
that's awesome. We're going to be talking about the book. Where are you located in the UK?
Very central between Birmingham and London. So about just over an hour from Birmingham and about an hour and a half from London. So
did I hear you right? You said there's 300 locations in this guide that you've created?
Yeah, over 300 places that I've searched out. That are all linked to kind of dark tourism. So it's been quite a bit of work.
I love that. And have you always had an interest in kind of like the haunted historic sites? Has that always been like a hobby of yours, an interest?
I think, well, I grew up in a small town called Bury St Edmunds, and I think learning about kind of the grisly kind of Tudor period and St Edmund, that's linked to Bury St Edmunds, I think had a kind of influence on me taking an interest in history. And then it wasn't until I went to college at West Suffolk College that I first heard of the term dark tourism. And I came away searching kind of across the internet what kind of dark tourism meant, and these kind of places like Auschwitz and the catacombs of Paris and Ground Zero in America. Then my teacher said like university kind of touches on this term dark tourism more. So that's when I decided to go to university, and I focused a lot of my kind of work really around what motivates people to these sites, what kind of issues they faced. And then after university, I still knew I had an interest. But I took a bit of time from personal development and things. But I travelled to a number of places across Europe, like Auschwitz, the catacombs of Paris, and
that's what's so fascinating about the UK is that there are so many places that do have such a long story.
Well, there's so much history.
Absolutely.
Europe has been around a really long time, and lots of stuff has happened there. So it makes sense that there would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever you talk to people in these locations, do you like talk to historians, paranormal investigators? Like, where does your source behind these stories, I guess?
It depends. Like, I've been on guided tours. It depends what kind of tour I'm going to pick. If I've gone to like a prison, then sometimes I've gone for a factual history tour. That's telling me the kind of factual history elements. And then I might go to a prison and take a kind of ghost tour. That kind of heightens all your senses, and you're kind of wondering what's behind your back every second. And same as being in a cemetery, it's totally different in the daytime to what it is in the nighttime.
That's true.
So here's a question actually that Kristen has, and I have it too. So what initially drew you to dark tourism and these haunted locations? Like as a kid, were you totally into the spooky stuff and ghosts and things? Were you always a believer in the paranormal? What's that background like?
I think the ghost kind of side, I've definitely been interested in, and the paranormal kind of side. But I think it's was more kind of the factual kind of element of history of places within the UK. I think that some history can get so distorted and told one way and then told another way, and then there's different kind of variations of history within one kind of story. And I found that very challenging in writing my book, that there's so much information out there on the internet and it's not correct. I've spoken to so many attractions writing my book, and they're like, no, that's not correct, that's out of date. And so I found loads of new information to put into my book from actually working with attractions and things.
That's great. Yeah, because going directly to the source to get the story is so much more reliable than the internet, because there is
no doubt about that.
So much misinformation out there. Yeah. You were going to say something earlier and said you were going to wait till we were on the call to actually mention it.
Hey everybody, we're talking to Leon
McAnally.
I'm sorry, I should have practiced. Leon McAnally. He's calling in from the UK. And he has this very cool book coming out very shortly about haunted attractions and locations in the UK. So my question was going to be, well, I'll start with this one.
Okay.
Which is, did you have a place you started? Like, I'm going to go here because I'm really interested in this place and the history and the ghost stuff. Like, did you have a starting point for this interest?
God, I
didn't mean to stump you. I'm sorry.
No, it's just. I don't really know if there's been a starting point. I think it was the reason for my book to start on the reason why I started my book is I think that when I was like in Europe, in like visiting overseas, I was speaking to kind of American tourists on one tour, and I was saying, about certain kind of places. Like I said, we have got a memorial to like JFK, and we've got a memorial to the Twin Towers. And I said it's made out actually part of the wreckage of the Twin Towers. And they wasn't aware that we had these memorials in the UK, and they wasn't aware that there were similar sites like bone crypts and things that you can visit in the UK. And I thought, and then even being in Northampton, there's a bone crypt like 20 minutes down the road, and I speak to people locally and they're like, oh no, I didn't know that was there. So I wanted to share these places and get them known.
I have a question. So did you say bone crypt?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That may be a turn of phrase that's different from an American turn of phrase. What is a bone crypt?
So it's normally in a like church or religious place, and it's full of bones. Like, do you know well, it's not the Paris catacombs, but it's a similar kind of site. And you literally go underneath the church. I think there's only 2 within the UK that date to the medieval time. And it's got about 2,500 bones on display. And yeah, it's.
So I was thinking that maybe it was another name for a graveyard or cemetery or something. This is actually like a crypt that's holding a bunch of bones.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the phrase bone crypt.
I love it.
That would make sense. Yeah.
I would be so happy there. It's a place I would want to hang out. And it's I want to point out that dark attractions doesn't always mean haunted historic castle. It does not mean, this big spooky place. Dark attraction is just something that's usually tied to something, could be tied to something tragic, could be tied to a tragic event, something where something awful happened to a group of people. So it's kind of broad, there. So I just want to point that out as well. And I want to say hi to a couple of people. We have a few more people who had signed on. Hello, Mandy. Hello, Tina. Thank you guys both for being on here. Remember, if you have questions for us or for Leon, put those in the chat. We'll be more than happy to ask those of him. So one of my questions, of course, will be about the book itself. It's not available yet, but when it does become available, where will people be able to find it?
On Amazon, across Amazon, it's going to be selling to start with, and then I'll maybe branch out from there. But yeah, it'll be across the platforms of Amazon to start with. And
this is the cover of the book, correct?
Yeah, it's the front and back cover of my book. It's had 2 reviews. There's a lady who partly inspired me to write my own book, and she reviewed it, and another university lecturer as well has looked at it and thought it's a decent book.
Well, it's very exciting. Congratulations. Anybody that can publish anything, that is such a huge accomplishment. How long have you been working on the book?
About 3 years.
Wow, good for you. And you said you were doing it like in your spare time around your other work, right?
Yeah, I have worked it around my job. I've gone to work and everything, but work, and other than my book, not much else. Me and my partner have gone out for days and stuff to have a break and things,
Right.
to rest my mind and everything.
Right.
Bit of a crazy golf kind of tournament we've got going. But yeah, all my spare time has been really focused.
Well, I mean, understandably. By the way, Mandy, who's watching, hey, Mandy says that she joined the waitlist on Amazon for the book.
Yeah.
So everybody, you can do that too.
Yeah, since it's not quite available just yet, you can get on the wait list. And yeah, we're getting more questions about the bone crypts. So are there a few castle areas or battlefields? Oh, it has nothing to do with bone crypts. I read the wrong thing. So Susan is asking, are there castles and battlefields included in this guide as well?
Yeah. There's a number of castles that are within my book, and there is a few battlefields as well within my book. There's a kind of bit of everything from kind of castles, to like the Tower of London, Stirling Castle, Colchester Castle, and then I'm trying to think, there's things that are linked to witchcraft history, there's graves, there's war memorials, there's coal mining memorials, war memorials, there's bunkers as well. So yeah, there's a bit of everything. I didn't want to, I think I didn't want, like, there is so many castles within England. I didn't want to put loads of castles in and then have it just like so many castles. I wanted kind of a bit of everything. There is obviously more than 300 places in the UK that can be linked to dark tourism. But yeah, I didn't want to just have to.
So maybe that's your next book, is Volume 2, Haunted Castles.
Yeah, there's plenty to cover.
He's like, let me get this one out first before we...
let him breathe for a second. Let him breathe for a second.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's been I need a little bit of a rest, should we say. I've got ideas on the back burner, should we say. But yeah, it's been a lot of work, because it's okay writing a book and having a cover and then having your textual pages, but it's been a lot, like, my designers. I have 3 designers working on my book, and they've been fantastic. It's been a lot of work with pictures, illustrations, maps, getting all the addresses in.
So it really is a full-on guide. I mean, this will help you find the place, learn about it. I love that. Now, here's a question from Kelly, a statement and a question. She says, there are so many famous dark places in England, but I bet you have favorites that are less well known. What are some of your favorite places that people might not know? So do you have like one or two of those that are like, oh, you probably didn't know about this really cool place?
Yeah, there's a couple of places. The Crypt is called, that is, I find still quite fascinating, because just not many people know about it. It's called Rothwell Bone Crypt. So if people wish to search for it. And there's another place called Little Dean Jail that I've visited and find it the most bizarre and most unusual place. It's an old jail and this gentleman owns it, but he's now, you go in and he's got a collection, like the whole place is just full with artifacts linked to, I don't know if any of your viewers know, like the Cray twins, these pair of serial killers called Fred and Rosemary West, and he actually has their belongings on display.
Wow.
And all I can say is it feels like is when I walked into this cell in Little Dean Jail, and it's a little tiny cell, and it was basically like, I felt like it was a shrine to these serial killers, like this Fred and Rose West. Like, it had newspaper clippings covering the walls. Wow. It has, like, in glass cabinets, his tie, his work boots, some other clothing items, and then it had like a spade hanged up on the wall, and it says underneath, the spade potentially used to bury his victims, because it was found, it was got from the house, like the gentleman had sourced it from the house somehow.
Oh my goodness. So it was sort of, the creepiness was almost like the reverence toward them, or the soup? Like, I don't know.
Like you said, it was like a shrine, so it was almost like a respectful shrine to these horrible people. That's what it's like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really, I don't know how. I went in the time we was there, like for 3 hours. I went back to that one cell about 3 times. I think partly it's because I'd written about it within my book as well. But I just found it so unusual. Like, this gentleman, like, had sourced these things and put them out on display, and and then other items to the Cray twins. I just found it really, and I still do. Like, I still question it in my own mind. And I think, God, like, but yeah, you could spend hours there. Like, the whole place is filled with items. The walls, there's not a bit of wall shown. There's just newspaper clippings of all different stories from, like, Amy Winehouse. There's just so many.
Well, it makes it very tangible and very real, to have these items of the serial killers that you talked about right there, but then to have the actual documentation of who these people were. I love places like that because it makes it feel very tangible and real. We had a question from Mandy who's watching, and I don't know what this place is, but she asked if your guide includes a place called the Ram Inn. Does that sound familiar?
No, it doesn't sound familiar. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Maybe she could tell me a bit more about this place.
Okay. So Mandy, fill us in a little bit on more about the Ram Inn. I've never heard of that either.
No, me neither.
So I have a question now.
Go for it.
Okay. So Leon, like, I'm a huge Charles Dickens fan, right? Like, I'm reading David Copperfield right now for a little light reading during the summer while I'm so busy. I just love Dickens stuff. So when I come to the UK, I want to do all the Dickens things, right? I want to see the places, whatever. So is there anything in your book that has a tie to Dickens or maybe literature in general?
There is a couple of places. There is a couple of individual graves that are book writers. I'm trying to think. I want to say I have one entry. There is his name that does appear in, but I can't remember for the life of me what entry it is.
It's okay. I'm totally putting you on the spot, but when I get the book, I'm going to be looking that up because that would be really interesting. So you think there's some reason he's mentioned?
Yeah, I found when I was writing about a lot of the places, I'd write about one place and then another place, like, they would overlap. Like, how can I say it? Like, I'd write about probably a famous executioner, and then I'd be writing about a jail, and his name would come up within the research I was doing. Like, he was famous for executing this many people at the jail, but I'd written about him earlier on in an entry. So I found it when I was going through my research, I found it really weird how so many places overlinked and things. So yeah.
Well, don't you think it's sort of like those connections wouldn't shock me though, because it seems like in a certain world things often collide and connect. You know what I mean? So we're talking about haunted, dark history kind of stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if a creepy executioner or an extremely talented executioner or a busy executioner, whatever, showed up. I need to stop talking.
No, you're absolutely right, because there's a creepy element to Charles Dickens, and and of course, one thing I thought you were going to ask, which you didn't. This is kind of shifting the subject a little bit. Is the whole Jack the Ripper thing. I mean, whenever we do make it to the UK,
that's the most famous.
I want to take
one that we know. Right?
I want to take the Jack the Ripper tour.
Do you? I just can't wait. Maybe I'll do the Dickens tour while you do the Ripper tour.
Oh no, we got to do both. I want to see both.
All right, everybody.
Well,
is there a lot of whiskey in England? No, all right. It's, okay. Just joking, everybody. What'd you say?
They use whiskey bars and things.
That'll help you get through.
I can probably make it through the Jack the Ripper tour then. Just kidding, everybody. So Mandy did say the ancient Ram Inn in England, UK. So we need to.
It is a former pub located in Watton under Edge, a market town within the Stroud district of Gloucestershire, England, which I'm probably not saying right. That's all I know. And that was just a quick Google that I did before Mandy wrote anything. So
Anyway,
put that in volume 2.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, to check that out.
it's interesting that she knows about it.
Yeah. Now, have you published anything before, or is this your first
book? Yeah, my first book, and it's been as I said, it's been a big task for my first book.
No doubt. It's an amazing accomplishment. I mean, you should be super proud. I'm sure you are. All right. So let me ask this question. What does your mom think about the book?
Sadly to say, my mum passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't ask that question.
It's all right. You're not meant to know. It's all right. It's fine.
Well, any relatives, perhaps? I just thought it would be interesting what your family thought. If they thought they know you and they think you're already interested in this, or are they like, we're a little worried about the Leon? You know?
Yeah, no, they found it quite interesting. Yeah, a lot of people found it interesting. Like my partner's family found it very interesting and wanted to know about like what is dark tourism, because I don't think it's really well known about. Yeah, a lot of people have taken an interest in it, and friends and family, and have been very supportive of me doing this kind of,
I expected them to be. I was just being a little bit.
Well, it's like whenever I talk to my family about, me being into spooky stuff and having this themed bed and breakfast, they look at me like, okay, what's wrong with you? You're not like the rest of us, but it's okay. We support you and we hope it works. So I completely get that for sure.
I'm not going to lie. I've got some pictures up in our living room of some mummies on display and stuff and whatnot. Probably a bit unusual. People may come in and think, what is up with him? Because me and my partner went recently to Sicily, and I think it was actually the most it's in Italy. I think that was the most probably maybe darkest tourism place within Europe, out that's different to kind of England, and it's literally got full on mummified remains all hanging up within their clothes, and their coffins are to the side, and there's like a glass panel that's on the side of the coffin. You can see the purse, like the human remains laying in it, and I just was like, God, this is really, like, you can see the hair on them, and I was like, God, like, you don't want to look, but you can't help but looking, because you're like, I think it's like, God, you're never going to see anything like this again.
Right. Well, we all have a morbid curiosity. Well, most of us have a morbid curiosity, not him, but most of us have a morbid curiosity, I think. And like I told you before we went live, the closest I've been to UK is Ireland, which I know is not UK, at least not part of it. And same kind of thing. I would go into these old cathedrals, and you could you don't smell death, but there's like this, what's under your feet, you know what's nearby, and there's this curiosity, and you would see these ancient what are they, not called coffins, but whatever I'm blanking.
Wait, what?
They're not called coffins. What are they called? Sarcophagi. You would see these, and you're like, holy cow, this thing has been here for.
That's the plural of
sarcophagus?
Sarcophagus? Yes. Wow. Yeah,
I'm
impressed.
It's like
look at you coming out with the big word.
I was an English major. Come on.
I mean, not that I'm shocked, but
that's something you're all right for.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were waxing poetic about sarcophagi.
But what's so cool is when you're in these places, again, it goes back to that tangible historic connection, I think, and that morbid curiosity that goes along with it. So I think, saying all that, this guide that you put together, I think is going to be crazy popular because so many people have an interest in this. And I'm sure you know that as well.
Yeah, I think, it's actually going to be the first guidebook to cover the whole of the UK. There's odd guidebooks that do cover different areas of the UK, but it will be the first one to cover the whole of the UK. And there's loads of different things in there. There's the really, within the book, you've got my entry pages, and then I've put some kind of special feature kind of places within my book. Well, I don't want to say too much about them, but I think
no spoilers.
Standout places.
Okay, so you sort of casually mentioned that you and your partner went to this creepy crypt place in Sicily together. So I don't want to. I mean, since I am sort of learning to enjoy this with Steve, is your partner sort of the same thing? You're like dragging him along, or is he into it as well? Or if that's too personal, you don't have to answer.
No, he does find it really interesting. Well, he says he does. Yeah, he does find it really interesting, but he does find it weird at the same time. Like, because I think he wasn't aware of kind of all these kind of places. Like, we go to these places, and he's like, God, I never would have come across this kind of thing. And like, he said like that Sicily place was the darkest place he's been to, like, and he couldn't believe like looking at it, and he said, yeah, it just was weird and strange, but he finds him interesting, and he go around reading the boards and stuff, reading up on the history while we're there. So
that's cool. All right, well, thanks for answering that. I was just because I end up wandering around a lot of cemeteries.
Yeah, and I'm like Googling and learning more about them and the history. So, it is good when you have two people, kind of researching it together. And, there's been a couple of questions in the chat asking about, how to get on the wait list. So I'm actually going to put the link in the chat right now on Facebook. I'll add it to the YouTube one as well. So you can actually click on that page and go to a guide to dark attractions in the UK page, and you'll see that there is an actual waitlist button there. So feel free to take a look at that page through the link that I just posted. It took me a minute to find it, but I had it bookmarked in my
no, thank you. Yeah, people can sign up to it, and it's kind of like a newsletter. And I'll be releasing a newsletter each month, and on the day it releases, a newsletter will go out. There's a couple to go out before it's released. If there's any issues, there's a contact page that people can get me on if they're finding it trouble to signing up. But just like you mentioned about cemeteries, we have got some very unusual cemeteries, I think, in the UK.
Oh, give us an example. Give us one example.
Yeah,
just a little nugget. Just a little nugget.
And what makes it unusual?
There's loads of quite a few I've written about. You've got these magnificent 7 cemeteries that were set up just outside, what was the outskirts of London in 1830s, I want to say. They were basically set up because of the churchyards being overrun with burials, so they had to set up these other cemeteries, and obviously people started getting buried there. And then I think over time a lot of these cemeteries they've was neglected and not maintained over the years, and then nature's kind of taken its course and taken it back. Like, there's a cemetery called, one of the most probably famous out of the 7 is Highgate Cemetery, and you've got trees kind of growing up out of the tombs.
Wow.
And ivy all climbing over them. But then you've got a mix of Gothic architecture, Victorian architecture, and then kind of Egyptian architecture, because they were kind of then periods within England when British people was fascinated by Egyptian kind of architecture. So then they put it into their funeral architecture. And there's some strange stories, should we say. There's vampire, should we say, apparently sighting in Highgate in 1970. There was a supposed vampire sighting, and it caused a lot of commotion. I believe it was, I'm trying to think of his name, Sean Manchester said there was a vampire sighting, and then another guy challenged it, David Farrant, and said it was a dark kind of entity. And then I think it was the 13th of February 1970, I want to say, it kind of all came to a bit of a head, and locals kind of all got into this cemetery, exhuming bodies and stabbing stakes through corpses. And and
I remember reading about something like this, where there was actual okay, there's a vampire invasion that could happen, so we have to prevent it before it happens.
Sounds like mass hysteria.
That's exactly what.
That's amazing. What a great story that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, terrifying.
Yeah, it's
but-
like hammer the stake into them so they can't come up. And I've also seen, I on Facebook and other social media, I follow the Phantom History page, follows all of these historic pages and sites. And there's like this whole thing about interesting graves and how you can tell if it was a vampire's grave, because sometimes it will have like a something where the neck would be, so that if the vampire tried to set up, it would not cut off its head. So there's like all these really weird things like that throughout this whole vampire lore that I love. And I think it's just so interesting and weird. But yeah, mass hysteria.
I mean, like you described it so well, Leon, like the image of all of these people deciding that they could be attacked any time, and they're all exhuming these bodies and stabbing them with. That's crazy.
It all died out. It has all died out. Like, I think it died out in like 1973. Like, apparently, supposedly caught the vampire and killed it. But them two carried on arguing, I think, to 2019 about if this vampire existed in Highgate. Like I say, there is no vampire, and the cemetery doesn't want any association with that, and they wants to be kind of a natural, kind of famous for its architecture and its natural environment. But I think it's that story that has intrigued people as well to visit, and kept kind of interest. It could be that Highgate is maybe one of the famouser ones out of the 7 cemeteries because of that story. But yeah.
Well, here's and kind of shifting the subject a little bit before we start wrapping up. Another question we have from Kristen, who's watching it. I'm actually it's going to be 2 questions for you because I'm curious about something else. She asks if you have read any B.A. Paris. She is a local author to you. I don't know that name. And my follow-up question to that is are you a reader, and what kind of books do you read, and do you have a favorite author?
Myself, I haven't heard of that author, by the way, so I do apologise. But my kind of books that I do read is The Lady Who Inspired Me. J.F. Penn is her author name that she goes by, and she's a self-publishing author. And yeah, it's a very takes you on a bit of a roller coaster adventure. And I think she's a very good creative author, and her books can be found on Amazon herself. And she helped me basically start writing on direction of getting my book edited and different kind of aspects, really, and helped on marketing aspects. And she's a really big kind of inspiration. I think it's nice to have an author. You get so many authors. I think, no disrespect to author community, I think like they write a book, they may do well, and that's it. They're on their kind of own kind of path. But with her name is Jonah, actually, and she goes by J.F. Penn. She's very supportive of people who are starting their journey. She's not just written her own book, she's written a number of books that support people as well in different aspects of writing, creatively, marketing, loads of different books. And she's there, really, if people want to drop her messages.
I love that. And somebody who has success and then wants to help others have success says a lot about that person. I think so I love that. And, and I Googled B.A. Paris, and it looks like there's a lot of like crime fiction thriller stuff that looks like that, which knowing Kristen, I'm happy to see that she's reading those kinds of books, because Kristen stayed here at the B&B with us, I don't know, a few months ago now, and has got hooked on reading books.
The crime thriller.
Yeah, the crime thrillers.
Yeah, cool.
I do too. Any other questions before we start wrapping up?
I guess not. Again, remind us where we can find the book or order the book, either one.
Yeah, you can find the book on Amazon, and you can order it on Amazon as well on the 24th of July this month. And you'll find a number of kind of places. There is some grossly visual kind of places as well that you can visit as well. Like this one called Hunterian Museum in London. and it's a scientific museum, but from a visual point of view, that's where it's dark tourism, because you're looking at kind of a severed hand cut off and put in a jar for scientific purposes. You've got maybe miniature babies in jars, and it's very gruesome and macabre and things. But that's how it was back in the day. That's how science kind of was, and how they kind of did things back in the day for medical purposes, was to look at these kind of infections and things and whatnot. And it is a bit gruesome visually.
Yeah, it's all about preservation and then being able to study it afterwards, which is gross, but that's all they were able to do. And of course, everybody watching, the book is called A Guide to Dark Attractions in the UK. And of course, A Guide to Dark Attractions in the UK also has some social media pages. Phantom History follows them, so feel free to look through our contact or our friends group or whatever it's called, and add through there and keep up to date with everything that's going on. You'll find lots of really cool information. And remember, you can also join the wait list through the website that we posted in the chat. Remember, when you sign up to be on the wait list, you'll get an email back that confirms your email. So make sure you click that so you stay on the mailing list. So there is an extra step to do that.
So Leon, as we're closing up, what would you like to leave us with? What was the last thing you'd like to tell people, remind them, or anything you want to say? This is your chance.
I'd like people to buy my book to explore a different aspect of the UK and learn about some unusual kind of aspects that are not so well known, really, and learn about kind of our history a bit more.
It's very cool. Well, I look forward to not only getting the book and reading the book, but one day meeting you and getting you to sign our copy of the book for sure, so that here at the Phantom History House Library, we would have a signed copy. So either we're going to make it to the UK or come on over and stay with us at the bed and breakfast, or we'll do both. But I look forward to that day.
Absolutely. Same here. And Leon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us tonight. I know you stayed up late for us, even though you are a night owl. We would both have been like so far asleep by now in the time zone. So thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Fun.
And thank you everybody who sent in questions and was watching and everything. We really appreciate it. If you thought this was a very cool conversation and you think you know somebody that would like to hear this, please share with them that it's here. And tell them about Leon's book.
Yeah, it's never too early to start your Christmas shopping. So I think this is
right.
a really
Perfect
good
stocking
idea
stuffer.
for stocking stuffer.
I think so.
Absolutely. Hey, if we're planning for Halloween now, we can go ahead and start planning for Christmas.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Leon, thank you so much for talking with us. You were great.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Yeah, and I'd like to say it's a bit of a special kind of gift for any kind of thing. It's for the summer, to explore the UK, for Halloween to sit and cozy up by a fire and read, or a gift for somebody at Christmas as well. So, but yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really great, nice discussion.
We definitely appreciate you taking the time, and thanks everybody for watching. And we will be back again with another Phantom History House Calls. And you can check out our events page, phantomhistory.com/events, to keep up with all the stuff we have going on here.
Yeah, and if, in case you didn't hear the beginning, come join us for the scavenger hunt. Thanks, Leon. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.